We start off our discussion by looking at the role of the Speaker in the House of Representatives as the person who regulates the people who make the laws of the land. And our guest is Raphael Cumberbatch. Mr. Cumberbatch is a former clerk of the House of Representatives and of the Senate. He spent a brief stint as a senator, but he has 30 years' knowledge in parliamentary practice from all angles, looking at it from all angles. So he's our guest this morning. Mr. Bishop?
Good morning to you, Mr. Cumberbatch. How are you?
Morning, Mr. Bishop. I can't tell you how privileged I feel to be serving on being interviewed by your good self.
As we feel privileged to have you here this morning.
I have known you for a very long time, long
right.
before your more recent incarnation.
It would be enough to say that we are members of the Mutual Admiration Society.
At all.
It's good to have you here. We're looking at a situation where many have felt, so do I, that the Speaker of the House is the guardian of the quorum in the House. He's also the enforcer of the protocols for the House. Are you in agreement with that? And if you are, is it true to say that some of what we see happening here lies at the door of the Speaker?
Well, I don't know that it lies at the door of the Speaker. It makes for good copy. But at the end of the day, it is the responsibility of all members, each and every single member of the House of Representatives, to be the guardian of the decorum of the House.
Self-policing is what you're saying.
Self-policing, that is what it is about. Now, I sensed in your question an inclination to suggest that the Speaker has some authority over and above everybody else in the House. Mm-hmm. May I remind the panel here that when the event took place, government was in office, was sitting. There was a member of the opposition, not the formal opposition, who had already walked out, but there was still a member of the opposition there.
You referred to Mr. Jack Warner. Who was
yes. And if my memory serves me correctly, when he rose to speak, he spoke directly against what had taken place just before. And if that was his point of view, it occurs to me that as a responsible member of an opposition, he could have raised his concerns earlier and allowed the Speaker to rule. The Speaker was in no position, in my view, to know the truth or otherwise of what was being said. Now, Parliament, may I point out, Mr. Bishop, Parliament is not a tea party. It is the place where things can be said that may not necessarily rise to the level outside. Now, if a Speaker is to intervene without an intervention from anybody else, simply not knowing the facts and sensing that, well, this may be a little inappropriate, where are we going with the privilege of Parliament? I don't know. I merely posed the question.
There is a broader question, but we will hold that later on. I see Ms. Baboolal Sharmain by jumping at the bit there. So go ahead, please. I'll hold mine for a moment.
Let us take us back to 1995 and the issue with Okasi Paul, which we remind Bishop. She was Speaker of the House of Representatives. She was all the machinery was used to remove her. She was placed under house arrest. What I want to ask now, and the question that arises, how is a Speaker elected? Have we ever examined that? Yes, it's the majority rules in the House, so it's himself to himself. The House elects a majority that, in that way. But should, in all good sense, a Speaker come from the belly of politics? If not from the belly of politics, but from a place that a person is known to be aligned to a political party.
You see, the point that Ms. Baboolal makes it speaks to an even wider problem, which is the problem of constitution reform. The Constitution provides for a Speaker to be elected in a certain way. And as far as I recall, those provisions were met. Clearly, there is need, or there appears to be some need, to change the way in which a speaker comes into office, or even a president of Senate for that matter, or indeed a president of the Republic for that matter. So to isolate the speakership from a broader question of constitution reform suggests to me a more narrow approach to a more fundamental problem that the country faces today. How do we elect our president? How do we elect our speaker? How do we elect our president of Senate? These are high officials of the institutions that are regarded to be non-political. But are they really?
You spent a number of years observing the House, even from a tot, as you say, and you had the privilege in the 70s of seeing what was happening there. At that time, you would look around, you would see empty chairs. This was, when you talk of privilege in the House, folks understood it because there would be a select amount of people, the members, of course, the representatives, select few interested parties, and you would have some media there. It would be happening in a relatively closed environment. That has changed. Now, although it has been, it is known that it's always open to the public, nobody really bothered. Now it's knocking at the doors of the public through the electronic media. Is the time now, you believe, where we should look at this question of how much privilege or how much privilege for the members or how much privilege we should allow the nation to look at this?
You raise a very valid question. Parliament is in our bedrooms. It's not like before. Nobody journeys down to the Red House or what is now the Towers and so on to see a members talk. They get it live and direct through the Parliament channel. So there's a larger participation. What is taking place in our country with respect to the consciousness, the rising consciousness about Parliament and its activities and its members is taking place all over the world. They are open to more scrutiny as a result of social networking and the improvement in ICT. It brings a higher level of responsibility to those who represent us to behave in a certain way that does not bring discredit either to our institutions or to themselves.
Their privilege is then, therefore, the Parliament channel, which is broadcast on cable channel 11, has the same privileges that would accrue to Parliament members.
That is my understanding.
Therefore, when we report what is said in Parliament, do we border on libel? Are we exempt from those privileges? What is the dilemma that the press has found itself in? If indeed, I'm sorry, I just need to if indeed what was said in Parliament on Wednesday was so grossly untrue and inaccurate and damaging and libelous and slanderous, what redress would the parties who were damaged and slandered, what redress would they have?
Now, you see, this touches exactly on what we were talking about. What was said in the Parliament is in the public domain. The media has its constitutional guarantee to be free and to report what is in the public domain. If persons have a problem with that, there are institutions to deal with that. I think it is the court. But those are not matters that concern me. What concerns me is that we are a growing democracy, a growing republic, and yet we are bound by some of the very matters that hamstring the media, where you are in doubt as to where your rights are. Your rights are enshrined in the Constitution. Freedom of the press, freedom of expression. Those are your rights. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise,
Yeah. Our guest this morning on a first shot, but it's not a shot, it's a sober brunch on 107.7. Our guest is Mr. Raphael Cumberbatch, former clerk of the Senate, former clerk of the House of Representatives, and we're discussing the role of the Speaker. The Speaker is the man who regulates the people who make the laws of the land. And Mr. Cumberbatch, we're discussing, should a Speaker come from the belly of politics? How then, as you have viewed it over the years, is there some way that you see that we can address the appointment of a speaker in a different way so that we get non-partisan people? How can that happen? As well as I want to go back to Wednesday's debate and ask you if you can tell us what would have been, because you would have looked at it and you would know it by now, what would have been the redress of members? For example, if members of the opposition were in the House, what redress would they have had? Because if they know this is a tissue of lies that's coming at us, what redress, what motion, what standing order could they have used to defend themselves?
Well, You have asked 3 questions,
In one
all
shot.
linked. The very last one attracts my attention, but I will leave that to be answered at the end. In terms of regulating the House, while the Speaker has a role in regulating the House is regulated by its standing orders, by the Constitution and its standing orders that provides for the parameters within which members can speak and operate and exercise their privileges. So the Speaker merely has a role not in regulating the House, but in overseeing the regulation of what is taking place. And that feeds into the next issue that you spoke about. In the absence of the opposition, whether anything could have taken place. But the opposition wasn't entirely absent. There was a member of the opposition present. He could have raised a matter, because clearly from when he started his contribution, it appeared that he was very offended by what had been saying. Why didn't he stand up and speak? Why didn't he raise an objection?
But what was the standing order that was available to him that he could have used?
He could have interrupted on a point of order that the member is imputing improper motives. There are a variety of standing orders that the sitting opposition member could have raised.
You were saying that the Speaker really, in the context of what happened on Wednesday, was powerless to do anything about what was being uttered?
I would not say he was powerless, but he was constrained by what was taking place. The majority opposition, if there is such a reference, the majority opposition decided to walk out. You have walked out on the Parliament. You have turned your back on the chair, and you are expecting then for somebody to watch your back? Well, there's somebody there who's still in the opposition that could watch your back.
But why is it being perceived that he's watching their back? He's supposed to watch.
If it's everybody's back,
yes.
and therefore he was constrained not to intervene because he could not have known, in my view, I don't know if he knew or didn't, but he could not have known, in my view, whether the allegations, they may have been scandalous, they may have attracted some condemnation in certain sections of the society, both here and in Tobago. But for the Speaker to arbitrarily intervene, not knowing the facts, it puts the Speaker in a very difficult position.
Okay, well, we're moving forward to this coming Wednesday.
Yes, the 8th.
Or the following
8th of
Wednesday.
April. I think it's the following Wednesday. The 8th
Resumption,
of April.
yes.
Yes, when debate on the motion. What redress is there? Okay, so therefore we've had instances of someone who's been wronged or maligned or slandered in Parliament. The person comes back and gives a redress. Gives their side of the story by way of a letter, which is usually and it is read into the record of the House.
Yes.
What else can the Speaker do? Knowing and seeing the condemnation, but also seeing the rebuttal, the clear rebuttal, which shows that what she said was not the truth. What then can he do? If perchance the opposition said, in the name of politics, we've dealt with this outside, we're not going back into the House, we're not going back for that motion. What can he do to bring that what people may want to say, some little bit of decency back into the thing?
Well, we were referring to the sitting of Wednesday the 8th, the proposed sitting. Now, there are 3 parties, insofar as the discussion is concerned. There is the Honourable Minister, the opposition, and the Speaker. And there's going to be a sitting, and my understanding is that the debate has been adjourned to Wednesday the 8th. So the first question that arises is whether the opposition, the majority opposition, for want of a better expression, will come to the sitting at all, having walked out, and knowing that the debate had been adjourned to Wednesday the 8th. If they do not come, is it that they have abdicated? Because there may be other things on the order paper that needs attention. By not coming, you cannot ignore the entire order paper for one item. But if you do come, and the item comes up, what does one do? Walk out again? Listen, my understanding of the whole thing is this. I grew up under a time when we learned that politics is civilized war. And in my view, you don't walk off the theater of war.
Okay.
You stand and fight.
Okay, so
That's my view. That's my private view. That's my personal view. You
Okay.
stand and fight.
I'm looking at it impartially, and you want to bring some kind of reason to it here, so that yes, you walk out because okay, they're coming at you. You decided I'm not going to stand up and take the blows or whatever they're coming at me with. I walk out. I leave and I walk away. Okay, with drama, of course. I walk away. Behind my back, the hardest blow came. I'm able to put up my defenses. I'm now showing it as a tissue of lies. But the fact remains that a member of the House of Representatives stood up there and spoke of the sins being refuted and been told as lies. So therefore, let's bring that into the discussion. Wouldn't it be good and proper and decent of a speaker, or what is there in the realm of the standing orders that govern the House that can bring some decency in the records of Parliament, even if the opposition does not go back there?
Well, I can tell you the whole concept of decency is not mentioned anywhere in the standing orders of the Republic of Trinidad.
I'm sure.
That is the first thing I need to say based on what you have introduced. Speakers, over time and in different jurisdictions, take certain positions. Now, it is as though, if my sense is correct, that there has been a determination, a clear determination, that this was said and that was a lie. And therefore, that's the end of the discussion. As a member of the public, that is not my view. I have heard one side, I have heard another side.
What are the laws governing the rebuttal then?
Gray area in between that I cannot make a categorical statement that this was a lie, or it may have been intemperate, it may have been immoderate, it may have been in bad taste, but whether it is a lie or the truth, I am in no position to say. And on that basis, I stand my ground that a presiding officer cannot make a determination on a matter of truth simply on what transpired in the House on whatever day it was.
Last Wednesday.
Mr. Cumberbatch, then what are the rules, as best you know them, relating to a rebuttal?
Members are free to rebut. You have personal explanations. There's a provision in the standing orders that allows a member to come to the Parliament and say, and I do believe that the minister of whom we speak has already gone on record as apologizing to some extent for certain aspects of what was said. Yes? And I would imagine under normal circumstances, just on the basis of that, without privy to any other information, that they would come to the Parliament at the appropriate time and tell the Parliament and place on the record, this is my position. What I said created a firestorm. The position is so and so. And I either unreservedly or qualified apologize with respect to the matter.
Okay, well then this should be taken in the realm of constitutional reform.
Clearly in my view, because you remember the matter that generated the constitutional reform was how should a speaker be elected? Mm-hmm. Whether he should be a creature of the political environment or there should be some mechanism
for independent appointment, yes.
And how can one do that outside provisions that already exist? Even the removal of a speaker. When we just took a look at it, it is so convoluted that you ain't likely to remove a speaker anytime soon. It is harder to remove somebody else than a speaker.
When you get, Mr. Cumberbatch, to the level...
And balance, eh? The check and balance is the removal of speaker provision, right? So although you may appoint him politically, the same political people can't remove him just like that, eh?
Got you. When we started the discussion, the theme song we played was "Who is going to guard the gods?" Now, because you can have a motion that falls within the parameters, and that emotion is introduced, you're not responsible. You cannot really corral in the content that's submitted by members. But when you have a situation where clearly those who are making the submissions, let's just say, are getting a little loose with facts or liberal, as we saw on Wednesday. What can be done in a case like this? We talked about changing the rules, changing the privilege that's afforded all these members. Where do you come down in the area of taking a serious constitutional look at reforming the rules surrounding privilege?
And I am extremely glad that question has come up. Because the recourse that is left to members where they feel aggrieved by something that has been said. It is so offensive that it seeks to bring into diminution the privileges and the powers and the decorum of the Parliament. It should be a matter for the Privileges Committee. But as is well known throughout our jurisdiction, the Privileges Committee reflects the balance of party of the members in the House. So the government will have a majority on it anyway. And in the debate on the report, they will also have a majority decision. So let's be honest. Is that not where we ought to go? In terms of amending our standing orders to provide some mechanism of balance in the operations of what is essentially a kangaroo court, for want of a better expression.
The price of freedom is eternal vigilance.
Thank you.
And that's what we have to do and have to be. So it's a topic that we know has not figured much in constitutional reform talks as we've had them for the past couple of years. So therefore, those talks are clearly inadequate, as we see. We thank you very much, Mr. Cumberbatch, for being our guest this morning.
You know, I always respond to any request that you make. Any time you call me, I always say, I'll come in.
we are going to take advantage of that.
Yes, and the other issue is that I would like to take the opportunity to wish the Spiritual Baptist community happy Spiritual Baptist Day tomorrow, I think. Yes, we have tomorrow. And my own personal wish, having been privy to some establishment of acts of parliament where they were incorporated, I ask for more unity in the Baptist community.
I hear that. Your clarity is greatly appreciated. Thank you so
very
much for
much,
being
sir.
with us this morning.